Hello, everybody. My name is Beverly. Again, it is May 23rd, 2017. I want to share something real quick. This was from May 13th of 2017. It was a vision. So in this vision, there was a YouTube video that I had apparently just got finished watching. So it was just like the screen that displays when a video was done. So, and I looked at the name of the channel from that video, and the name of the channel was MK Ultra. And also in my mind during this vision was the Babylonian captivity. Like somehow here in this time, it's as though like we're in the Babylonian captivity. So, and I don't know if this has to do with anything, but I was also thinking about how I heard someone say a long time ago, and it's very true, how the devil always promises, but he never delivers. He always makes promises, but he never delivers. Like if you're doing something that's sinful or whatever, and it's supposed to make you happy or get you what you want, it's never going to deliver it. Like if you're drinking alcohol to drown your sorrows, all you do is increase your sorrows. Something like that. So anyway, the name of this channel was MK Ultra. Now, there's a lot of conspiracy theory type stuff out there. There's a lot of wild stuff. And I realized that some of the wildest stuff is the stuff that's true. But there's also a lot of things out there that'll just take you off down rabbit holes, as they say, and a lot of things that'll just prove to be endless distractions, like how the Bible talks about endless genealogy, endless genealogies, and foolish conversations that lead to more questions rather than answers, and they really just get you off a track of what's important. So for that reason, I do not go out looking for different conspiracies. I looked into the JFK assassination because it was shown to me in a vision. I looked into the Bilderberg group because I heard that spoken to me, and all the other things, and aliens and all that stuff, which are not aliens. It is, the manifestation of demons, and that's more palatable to people to receive them as aliens, and they know that. So they don't want to come out and be known in the, general population as demons, because that's going to put people off and send people running for the Lord. So, but people be willing to accept aliens. So, whatever it takes to fool people, that's what the devil will do. He'll say whatever, do whatever. So anyway, MK Ultra is just another example of that, where I'm not going out looking for these things, because out of all the crazy stuff that's going on in the world, we don't need to know it all. We don't need to figure it out. But there seem to be strategic things that the Lord does see fit to make us aware of, and apparently MK Ultra is one of them. So there are many mind control devices And by devices, I don't mean machinery. I mean means by which something is done as a device. So the Bible talks about sorcery. It also talks about sorcery in the last days and in end time prophecy. And it's mentioned prominently in the book of Revelation. So what MK Ultra is, I'll start there. Basically, it's mind control witchcraft. So I'm going to read you the most uncontroversial source that I can. MK Ultra is not a conspiracy theory. It's a fact. It's a researchable fact. And I'm going to read to you about it from Wikipedia. And this is just the stuff that the government, which the CIA was behind that, admits to. So if this is what they're admitting to, how bad was it really? So, I'm not going to do any sort of exhaustive discussion about MK Ultra, but if you care to, you can look further into it, or you could just have this in your arsenal of knowledge, because apparently this is relevant for us in these last days. So this is what it says. Project MK Ultra, sometimes referred to as the CIA's mind control program, is the code name given to a program of experiments on human subjects, at times illegal, designed and undertaken by the United States Central Intelligence Agency. Experiments on humans were intended to identify and develop drugs and procedures to be used in interrogations and torture in order to weaken the individual to force confessions through mind control. Now, this is what is unrefuted. This is what they acknowledge. I'm going to read you a statement a little further down where the Supreme Court acknowledges that these things went on and opens the way for some lawsuits. The operation began in the early 1950s, was officially sanctioned in 1953, was reduced in scope in 1964, further curtailed in 1967, and officially halted in 1973. The program engaged in mainly illegal activities, including the use of unwitting U.S. and Canadian citizens as its test subjects, which led to controversy regarding its legitimacy. MK Ultra used numerous methodologies to manipulate people's mental states and alter brain functions, including the serendipitous administration of drugs, especially LSD and other chemicals. So they gave these drugs to people, slipped it to them to conduct experiments in order to develop ways to control people. Hypnosis, sensory deprivation, isolation, verbal and sexual abuse, as well as other forms of psychological torture. The scope of Project MK Ultra was broad, with research undertaken at 80 institutions, including 44 colleges and universities, as well as hospitals, prisons, and pharmaceutical companies. The CIA operated through these institutions using front organizations, although sometimes top officials at these institutions were aware of the CIA's involvement. As the U.S. Supreme Court later noted in CIA versus Sims MK Ultra was, quote, concerned with the research and development of chemical, biological, radiological materials capable of employment in clandestine operations to control human behavior. The program consisted of some 149 sub-projects, which the agency contracted out to various universities, research foundations, and similar institutions. At least 80 institutions and 185 private researchers participated. Because the agency funded MK Ultra indirectly, many of the participating individuals were unaware that they were dealing with the agency, meaning the CIA. Okay, although the Supreme Court sided with the CIA that sources' names could be redacted for their protection, that means that even when the documents were declassified, there were like whole sections blacked out so that no one would be held responsible for any of these things. It nonetheless the Supreme Court validated the existence of MK Ultra to be used in future court cases and confirmed that the CIA for 14 years performed clandestine experiments on human behavior. Between 1953 and 1966, the Central Intelligence Agency financed a wide-ranging project codenamed MK Ultra, concerned with the research and development of chemical, biological, and radiological materials capable of employment in clandestine operations to control human behavior. This was a mind control experiment. So what it doesn't mention there, so now this is just the stuff that they acknowledge, but what it doesn't mention there is that soldiers, because they were, under the total control of the U.S. government, were also forced to participate in this. And again, all of this was without their knowledge. And let's see. Wow. Now, the Vietnam War, went on from November 1st, 1955 to April 30th, 1975. And so this was during the height of all of this stuff. And they were doing all these things, and all those soldiers that came back so messed up, and a lot of this is just because of all the things that they were exposed to during these projects. And there have been numerous lawsuits by Vietnam veterans who are claiming that they were victims of MK Ultra projects that did them permanent psychological, emotional damage. So this is another article. This is in something called Natural News. And it says, the U.S. government ran chemical experiments on military veterans under Operations MK Ultra, Bluebird, and Artichoke. It says, the United States, for its warts, has achieved much in its short-lived 230-plus year history. But a few chapters, I'm skipping a little bit, in our history, slavery, oppression of the Native American tribes, causes of the civil rights movement, and movements of unconstitutionality on the part of our elected leaders serve as more than simple blemishes on an otherwise admirable record of defending liberty and freedom. One such stain is the way we treated some of our nation's military veterans. So it talks about a thing called Project Paperclip, and the other two, Bluebird, Artichoke, and MK Ultra. So the government launched Project Paperclip, the suit alleges, this is one of the lawsuits, in an all-out effort by the Army and CIA to allegedly recruit former Nazi scientists to help test various psychochemicals, as well as develop a new truth serum using the nation's own vets as test subjects. So these things were real. And it skips down a little bit more and it says the goal simply is mind control. In a report posted on the Citizens Commission on Human Rights International website, Ross says MK Ultra and related programs had several overlapping purposes. One was to purchase mind control drugs from suppliers. Another was to form relationships with researchers who might be later used as consultants at the top secret level. The core purpose of these programs was to learn how to enhance interrogations, erase and insert memories, and create and run Manchurian candidates. So, you can see how these things would be an advantage in war. You have a soldier that you can administer some drugs to, and he is, without, he doesn't have any inhibitions. He just will do whatever. He doesn't have any conscience about killing or doing whatever he's ordered to do. And they can be made super aggressive or whatever. So, one of the other things that I forgot to mention was the use of drugs. Oh, I wanted to more emphasize it. And one of the big ones, like the biggest one that was developed especially for this, they also experimented with alcohol, marijuana, and all that. But the big thing was LSD. LSD was actually developed for this purpose. And then it became so-called recreational after all of this. So, yeah. Let's see if I can find a little bit about LSD. Okay, early CIA efforts, this is back to the Wikipedia article. Early CIA efforts focused on LSD, which later came to dominate many of the MK Ultra programs. The CIA wanted to know if they could make Soviet spies defect against their will, and whether the Soviets could do the same to the CIA's own operatives. So, yeah, LSD is bad news. There were other drugs, like I said, barbiturates, amphetamines, heroin, morphine, all kinds of stuff. Marijuana, alcohol, sodium pentothal. They used also hypnosis. And like I said, all of these things, the whole point of the experiment was that people did not know that they were being experimented on. And what other captive audience do you have? Like it says they used prisoners, people in hospitals, people in mental hospitals, people in the military. And one of the goals stated up above, so in 1955, one MK Ultra document gives an indication of the size and range of the effort. This document refers to the study of an assortment of mind-altering substances described as follows. substances which will promote illogical thinking and impulsiveness to the point where the recipient would be discredited in public. So remember, you see all these people making these YouTube videos about stars and MK Ultra and, them flipping out and all that stuff. Chris Brown, Charlie Sheen, Randy Quaid, Britney Spears. And what they do is make sure the people look completely nuts. Michael Jackson too. Make sure they look completely nuts so that if they ever break free from the control, or if they've been essentially brainwashed. Sorcery, witchcraft, mind control has been used on these people. And these people have been turned into a commodity. And, they want, if the people ever break free, they just discredit you. They just have you looking like a whack job. So that's that. Now I just want to read you a couple scriptures and a definition. Like I said, drugs was a huge part of this. So you're familiar with where you go and pick your drugs up at. If you happen to make a trip to the doctor, you go by the pharmacy. The word pharmacy comes from the Greek word pharmakia. And here are some of the associations of the word pharmakia. Definition: the use of medicine, drugs, or spells. Spells. It's pretty much just, it means sorcery, witchcraft. And there'll be shamans and other things like that where they'll take certain drugs to bring about these spiritual experiences. And all it really is the fact that when you use drugs like that, you are like shutting down the physical body, and you're moving into a place where you see spiritual things. But you cannot see the things of God through drugs. But you can open yourself up to the world of demons through pharmakia, which is nothing more, the world of demons, nothing more than witchcraft. So I'm going to read you a few scriptures. Like I said, in the end of time, sorcery, same thing, witchcraft, plays a very prominent role in the book of Revelations. Revelation chapter 9, verse 20 and verse 21 say this: "And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of the works of their hands, that they should not worship devils or idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and of wood, which neither can see nor hear nor walk." Verse 21, "Neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornications, nor of their thefts." Key word here, there are sorcerers in this world right now. They are using demonic means in order to control other people, to manipulate people. That is sorcery. That is witchcraft. In the Bible, it says rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. So when you, like say you're a wife or whatever, we'll just use wife, for example, and you enter into rebellion, you are you're upsetting the natural order. You're attempting to control things, have your own way. And rebellion is demonic. I mean, the devil is the father of rebellion. He conducted the first ever rebellion in heaven. So that's all witchcraft is. That's all witchcraft is. Revelation chapter 22, verses 14 and 15 say this: Blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life, and may enter in through the gates into the city, meaning heaven. For without or outside of the gates are dogs and sorcerers and whoremongers and murderers, idolaters, and whosoever loveth and maketh a lie. So you saw sorcerers mentioned again there. Way back to the beginning, in Exodus, the Egyptians were heavily into sorcery, and Moses dealt with that. They from the beginning. Aaron threw down his rod, and the Egyptians threw down rods and made snakes also. Verse 7 of chapter 8 says this. Exodus chapter 8, verse 7. And the magicians did so with their enchantments, and brought up frogs upon the land of Egypt. And that's over and over again throughout Exodus, that they were sorcerers. And finally, in Acts, I'm going to read a few verses. In Acts, this is the New Testament church. So it says this, verse 9, Acts chapter 8, verse 9. But there was a certain man called Simon, which before time in the same city used sorcery and bewitched the people of Samaria, giving out that himself was some great one, to whom they all gave heed, from the least to the greatest, saying, This man is the great power of God. What do they want? Power, control, witchcraft. Verse 11, and to him they had regard, because that of long time he had bewitched them with sorceries. He usurped legitimate control, authority with sorcery. Verse 12 says, But when they believed Philip preaching the things concerning the kingdom of God and the name of Jesus Christ, they were baptized, both men and women. So that story goes on with a little more detail if you want to ever read that. But I just wanted to share with you guys what the Lord shared with me. Just to know all this. There was another word that I had about psychological operations and how the news was a psychological operation. Just want to warn you, a lot of people are bewitched right now. They believe things that are not true, and you cannot get them out of it. I'm going to read what Acts chapter 8 said again. But there was a certain man called Simon, which before time in the same city used sorcery and bewitched the people. It says, to whom they all gave heed, from the least to the greatest. Sorcery is real. Sorcery is happening in our time, and it's why many people cannot believe the gospel. Why they love money, why they're covetous, why they chase things. They're bewitched. It was going on back then. Now they have great means by which to bewitch people. They have movies, commercials. I've always said commercials were witchcraft. They take you, show you a 30-second clip and have you desperate to get something that before you never heard of. Now you gotta have it. You never heard of it, didn't know it existed, could have totally lived the rest of your life without ever seeing it, and now you're borrowing a lifetime salary to get it, whatever it may be, whether it be a car or whatever. So these things are real simple. They're real simple. It's not real complicated. It is not a woman in a pointy hat flying on a broom with a big cauldron throwing in rabbits' feet and chicken blood. It's a commercial. It's a lying news story. It's lies and deception. It is a means of control. Why? It's madness. The Bible asks the question, why did the heathen rage? Why did the heathen rage? Why? Why did they imagine vain things? I want to read that scripture before I go. All right. Psalms chapter 2. Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain things? And the people imagine a vain thing. The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord shall have them in derision. Then shall he speak to them in his wrath and vex them in his sore displeasure. So anyway, God bless you guys, and God bless and keep you by his spirit in these last days. Very, very last of the last days. Just hold on.